Welcome to Online Sports Talk. Today we are doing our Lions preseason predictions. Now, this is a few days after the Lions have already lost to the Green Bay Packers. As you can tell by the echo and the empty walls behind me, I am in the process of moving. We started moving some stuff over the weekend. We're finishing that up this weekend. So with that said, I am still giving you my predictions based on what I thought before week one. And yes, I was wrong about week one. I did anticipate that the Lions would win, and they did not, which is no surprise to anybody watching this right now. So with that said, let's just head on over to our spreadsheet where we're going to talk about the roster and my thoughts on the roster and the what I think is going to happen for the season. So here you can see my spreadsheet that I have here, and it's the roster as of today, according to the Detroit Lions website's official depth chart. The highlights in green are guys I think that will be Pro Bowlers at the end of the season. I never really worry about the special teams, but there's always a chance that Bates or Fox could be special teams Pro Bowlers as well. Also, I only included Aleem McNeil and Malcolm Rodriguez in the major injuries field because right now they are not on the depth chart, whereas there are some injuries to guys that are on the depth chart, but I'm not worrying about that. So right off the bat, you'll see I don't have Jameson Williams as a Pro Bowler. Every year it seems like we get the hype that J-Mo is going to be a Pro Bowler. And maybe he will. I hope he does. I'm a big J-Mo fan. I collect his cards. I'm always rooting for the guy. And I just like him. I love the fact that he wants to be in Detroit. He loves Detroit. He loves this team. So, hopefully he has a breakout season. But I think he's still going to be that decoy guy meant to stretch the field. And if they incorporate him into some reverses and things like that, and he has some huge gains, maybe he does get into the Pro Bowl and makes a huge impact this year. Amon-Ra St. Brown is the most steady receiver we have, so obviously I have him in the Pro Bowl. Khalif Raymond is the third receiver on the depth charts. However, I think Tesla is going to be really good. He's that big body receiver I've wanted for a few years now. I've been telling my nephews that I want that big body guy, that guy in the red zone you can just lob it up to. We finally have it. He's definitely better than, I think, Tim Patrick in that regard. Obviously, we don't have that veteran presence anymore, which is a bummer because I really liked Tim Patrick. But I do believe Tesla can really cement himself in this offense and become a regular, especially down in the red zone. Looking forward to seeing what he does. Then we get to our offensive line, which did not look good this week. There was multiple highlights and plays that people are dissecting where it looks like the offensive line was not in unison. For instance, there's a play where the Lions are almost, they're on like their own 1 or 2, and the center went left, the right guard went right, and they left the nose guard to be able to come straight down. And I don't think that was how the play was designed. If it was, it looked like very bad play design, but what do I know, right? Just a fan. So I think maybe that was a little bit of miscommunication there. Christian Mahogany, I have high hopes for him. Taylor Decker is a guy that's getting up there in age. I like Taylor Decker. He's been pretty solid. But I do wonder when the wheels are going to fall off, per se. Offensive linemen, some of them age really well, others don't age well. And he's getting up there. He's the longest tenured Detroit Lion we have. And hopefully he can hang on for a couple more years playing at a decent level because we need a guy who can protect Jared Goff's backside. Christian Mahogany. We'll see what happens over the next couple weeks. I hope he can be a good left guard. Jury's still out on that. Graham Glasgow, the veteran center, has had some injury issues. Again, hopefully he can make it through the season. Tate Ratledge did not look impressive in his first start. It's a guy that I was really excited that we drafted. I still think that, he's a rookie. There's a chance in the next couple weeks he could really step up and develop quite a bit. That's what my hope is because I do believe the Lions have a very good offensive line coach. So looking forward to seeing how that unfolds. And, with the Bears coming up next week, maybe that's a good opportunity Bears have a couple guys on the defensive line who pose a real threat, but hopefully we can manage that. Penei Sewell, obviously, nothing needs to be said there. I'm not going to worry about offensive line backups. Sam Laporta, obviously a great tight end. I'm not real worried about this offense as a whole. So Sam Laporta is a stud. I expect him to have 70, 80 catches easy this year, and probably like 8 touchdowns. Jared Goff, in my opinion, is a top quarterback in this league. However, I did see a stat that worried me. He's had, I think, 6 different play callers in his 9 years in the NFL. Outside of Ben Johnson as a play caller and outside of Sean McVay as the play caller, he does not have a very good win-loss record. In fact, I think he had 1 win and like 20-some losses. So that was not a good stat to see, but I don't think we necessarily have to worry about that yet. Running backs, we got David Montgomery. Love David Montgomery. Monty is a hard-nosed runner. Love that style of play. You always need a back who can get you a yard or 2 if you really need it. And I just harken back to last year winning that game in overtime. I think it was against the Rams, if I remember right, where they just basically handed it to him over and over again, and he pounded it in. Loved that. He was unstoppable. So I'd like to see some of that this year. Jahmyr Gibbs, I think, is going to have a huge season. Many are putting him in the top 5 running backs category. I believe that is well earned and deserved. So hopefully that does unfold that way. The third and fourth string running backs, you're talking about Vaki and Reynolds, like the guys, good character guys, good practice guys. Nothing bad to say about them. They're not starters in this league, but they're definitely valuable to have. You always need character guys on your team. Good work ethic, guys that can pick up the ball when they need to in very limited snaps and make some plays. And I think they can do that. They're not going to be leaned on to have 10 carries a game at all. Every now and then you might see Vaki on a return. You'll see those guys play some special teams. So again, I think that those guys can fill in nicely. The defense, which I thought was going to be really good, still might. Aiden Hutchinson was shut down by the Packers on Sunday. However, I still think he has possibly a Defensive Player of the Year award in his future, either this year or next year. But yeah, he was getting mauled. There were plays where I saw where he was basically tackled by the offensive line. And hopefully the NFL notices this, and that is not a regular reoccurring thing. Tyleik Williams, I think he can be really good. He was our first round pick this year. Didn't love the pick, but I think ultimately, he's going to be really good against the run. And as long as, he can develop well and get used to the NFL, I think he'll be fine, especially with DJ Reader. We still have Aleem McNeil. Obviously, McNeil's hurt, but when McNeil comes back, Tyleik Williams has some great guys to learn from. Marcus Davenport, I think, is a solid defensive end. Not expecting huge, production from him, but maybe he will be a quality defensive end with Aiden Hutchinson on the other side. So who knows? As for our backups on the defensive line, I'm really excited about Muhammad, but I don't think he's going to get a lot of opportunity unless there's some injuries, and I don't want the injuries. So he's a guy I like. I like his personality. He seems like a guy who is a motor, a hustle guy, and a lot like Aiden Hutchinson in that regard. But maybe he'll work his way up and be a little mini Hutch, that would be awesome. As for the linebackers, Anzalone, he is what he is. Veteran in this league. Jack Campbell, I'm expecting big things from that big guy in the middle. Derek Barnes, Grant Stewart, good depth pieces. I liked Stewart in the preseason. Obviously, he's not a starter, but I like how fast he is. I like his ability to cover. He's definitely got a nose for the ball. He was everywhere. So again, I think he's a solid backup. He actually fits in well for, I think, filling in for Anzalone on some plays if Anzalone's, has to be out for a minute or catch a breath or something. As for our nickel, Amik Robertson, I think, is good. Avonte Maddox is a good backup at nickel, so I'm fine with that. DJ Reed, the pickup from the Jets, I think is great. Looking forward to seeing what he can do this year. In fact, his backup, who's also new, Rock Ya-Sin, He's bounced around a few teams. He's a guy I thought was going to be really good out of college. I still think he's got all the tools, and so I'm excited to see what he does. Obviously, Terry and Arnold, I'm expecting to step up big in year 2. We still have Brian Branch and Kirby Joseph. I still think Kirby Joseph is a great safety in this league. However, I don't believe he's going to make it on the Pro Bowl team. He's had a lot of interceptions. I have to imagine that those numbers are going to come down a touch. But maybe this year is the year he starts getting more recognition and recognized more by people around the league. Because last year he got in as an alternate when clearly, he led the league in interceptions. He should have been in as a just bona fide starter, but didn't get in there. Special teams, Jake Bates has a massive leg. He can kick 60-plus yard field goals. Jack Fox has a gun for a leg, too. He can kick real far. Very good punter. Maybe one of the best punters in the NFL, if not the best. I'll be honest, I'm not excited about our return guys. I do like Khalif Raymond. I don't know that any of our return guys are take it to the house kind of guys. And I don't know if the new rules with kickoffs and things like that really lend themselves to guys who can take it to the house. It seems a little bit harder than it used to be. So, we'll see what happens, but I think our guys are solid there. I think it's interesting. We have a linebacker as a kick returner, but I do like Craig Reynolds as a kick returner. So, at least gives him some shots. And I kind of wish Sion Vaki was the other kick returner, but it's okay. As for the injuries, McNeil, obviously, I think he underwent some surgery in the offseason, so I'm really hoping he comes back and plays just as well as he used to. He's always, even since his rookie year, there's been something special about him, and I think he could do a lot of damage in the NFL. Rodriguez is a great depth linebacker. He's got some speed. He's strong, little bit scrappy, undersized, but he's a scrappy guy, kind of guy you really, really root for. And, he's a good depth piece too. So I'd like to see him back sooner rather than later as well. But, I think he had his first child in the offseason, if I remember right. So congratulations there. When it comes to the schedule, so I've been saying all offseason, I think the Lions are going to get 13 wins. I might be wrong after that first week. If our offensive line can't get things together, then I am very, very concerned for what this team is going to do, and it might be a really, really poor season. But you can see here, I've got the Lions beating the Packers, which I was wrong about. Next week at home against the Bears, I obviously think we're going to win. I just don't think that the Bears are ready yet. I think they're going to come in hoping for a big showing and trying to play well for Ben Johnson. And Ben Johnson's going to pull out all the stops. He knows this team. He knows the offense, knows the defense. So he actually has the competitive advantage, I think. However, we know his play calling. We know his tendencies. We know what he wanted to do. And things like that. So it's going to be a good match. It's a game that I'm really looking forward to watching this Sunday. So we'll see how that goes. But go Lions, right? Following week at the Ravens. Ravens are just too good. I think Lamar Jackson is hard to stop. You got Derrick Henry. I think that's going to be a tough one. I know a couple of years ago we got spanked by them. I don't think we're going to get beat that bad, but I don't think it's going to be a competitive game, and that's just me being realistic. I think the Ravens jump out to a big lead early, and it's too much for us to overcome. As for the Browns at home the following week, I think we win. It's the Browns. They've got they have a good defense. I still think Joe Flacco is a solid quarterback in this league. I don't mind Shedeur Sanders. I don't mind Dylan Gabriel. They're both rookies, though. I mean, they're not going to slice up any team, I don't think, this year if they get their opportunities. I do think the Browns made a big mistake getting rid of Dylan Gabriel. I think they could have traded one of the rookie quarterbacks and got a little bit more. But the Raiders really wanted Kenny Pickett. So, but yeah, they're a solid team. So we'll see what happens. But I do think the Lions win that game. The next week at the Bengals, Joe Burrow is a menace. That guy, he was getting lit up on some plays. His team needs to be better at blocking. They, as an organization, need to work on protecting Joe Burrow. I do think we beat the Bengals. But I think that's one of the shootout games. And in fact, that might even be the first game that the Lions scored more than 30 points this year. So week 5 might be the first time we really start to see the Lions offense hum. The following week at the Chiefs, I do think we win. At least I did a week ago. Right now I'm on the fence about it, but I do think we win. I think we pull that off. I think the Chiefs are going to have a setback this year. I don't think they're going to be as strong as they've been in years past. I just think it's so much for a team to maintain that level of greatness that eventually they have to start falling off a little more. Obviously, they were in the Super Bowl for the 3rd straight year last year. I still think they're one of the best teams in the NFL, but I have to assume that they are going to have a more down year. They'll still make the playoffs. They'll still make a run, I think. But maybe with like a 10, 11, 12 win season, somewhere in there. Not 15 wins or anything crazy like that again. So, again, I could be wrong, but I'm kind of hoping the Chiefs have a down season. Buccaneers, I think we win, but the Buccaneers are a better team this year. They are much better than they've been in the last couple of years. I like some of their pickups. They've got 3 really talented wide receivers. I think Baker Mayfield is good. You've got Bucky Irving, like Tristan Wirf. They are a good team. So I don't feel confident about that win either. That's two games right there that I think could go either way, but I got to choose the Lions at home in this one. Then week 8, they get a bye, and then they play the Vikings at home. So I do think they're going to beat the Vikings. I think the Vikings are better than last year. I do like J.J. McCarthy a lot. Now, I think Sam Darnold, in that offense, because of his veteran status, was better, but I think J.J. McCarthy is more talented than Sam Darnold. And eventually, J.J. McCarthy will be better than Sam Darnold of 2024-2025 season. At this point in the season, in week 9, I don't think he's there yet, but by the end of the year, I do think J.J. McCarthy will be significantly better, and you'll start to see it. In fact, his first game last night on Monday Night Football, he looked pretty good. So, and obviously it started slow, but that 4th quarter, he scored 3 touchdowns, 1 rushing, 2 passing. I know he had a pick 6, and there were some other issues during the game, but that last quarter, he looked great when it mattered, and he helped bring that team back. The coaching staff believes in him. The players seem to believe in him. So I think he's going to be great. But Lions win here. Week 10 at the Commanders. Big revenge game. I don't think it'll be enough. I do think the Commanders win. I think the Commanders are going to be nice this year. I fully expect the Commanders to compete with the Eagles for the NFC East. No, is it the East? I think it's the East. I fully expect them to compete with the Eagles, possibly winning that division. I don't know how the Eagles are going to be down the stretch with their defense. They lost some corners. They lost some guys in the offseason. Brandon Graham retired, Darius Slay, who's now in Pittsburgh, and, CJ GJ down to the Texans now. So there's some guys that I think were very key for that team. I still think the Eagles are going to play well this year, but I do think they're slightly less as good this year, whereas I think the Commanders are better. So, yeah. Anyways, I have the Lions losing in Week 10 to the Commanders. I have us losing in Week 11 to the Eagles. Week 12 against the Giants. I do think we win this game, and I think it's a nice rebound game for us. Going into that game, we'll already have 4 losses on the season, in my opinion, so that'll be a huge game for us. Winning that game, though, I think we'll win pretty convincingly. Now, the Giants, I don't know about their quarterback situation. I'm not sure between Jackson Dart and Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston. I just think there's a lot of stuff going on in that quarterback room. And I just don't know that they're going to be a good team. I love Cam Skattebo. I think he's pretty good. I think their defense is really good, which is going to keep them in a lot of games. They've got a pass rush. They've got some guys on that defense. They've got some good wide receivers. Malik Neighbors is amazing. So I do think the Lions win. I think our team just as a whole is much better, and so that's why I have them winning here. Week 13, Packers at home in Detroit. I you can't lose both games to the Packers. So I'm thinking a split, but by that point, Micah Parsons' back might be better. So there's that. Jordan Love might be clicking on all cylinders. They looked really good in week 1 against us. So it's hard for me, but I think the Lions win this game. I'm not feeling real confident about that one. So there's a few games I'm just not confident about, only because of how they performed in week 1. Now, with that said, the Lions have had bad week 1 performances before in the last couple of years with Dan Campbell, and they have righted the ship pretty quickly. They had year 1, they had Anthony Lynn as our offensive coordinator. I think he got fired halfway through the season, and then you saw drastic improvements. 2 years ago, we had, I think it was 2 years ago, we had a couple guys. We were having trouble on defense lining up properly. They released the defensive backs coach, and I think there was some other stuff, but we righted the ship that year. The Lions, Brad Holmes, Dan Campbell, aren't afraid to make a drastic move if they think it's necessary. So it's possible we might have to do that, or maybe things will just start getting better because guys figure it out. Hopefully they figure it out. But yeah, winning against the Packers. Week 14, Dallas comes to Detroit. I think we win. I don't believe in Dallas. I don't believe in Dak Prescott. I don't think they got what it takes. And they've got like George Pickens now at wide receiver. And, I think Clark from Green Bay as a defensive tackle for them is going to do well. But ultimately, I think we're better than the Cowboys. I can't choose the Cowboys over Detroit. That's just crazy. Week 15 in LA against the Rams. I do think the Rams win. I think by this time, Stafford and Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua and all of those guys are going to be clicking on all cylinders. The Rams are a quiet, good team. They have been in the playoffs almost every year. For 5 years now, they always pose a threat. Last year, they were a dangerous team heading into the playoffs. So again, I do worry about the Rams this year. And the fact that it's in LA, I think I got to give it to the Rams. Week 16, the Steelers. Now, I don't know if Aaron Rodgers is going to be able to sustain another season. I mean, he's in his 40s. He had a good game this weekend, and he's still very smart, but he doesn't have the athleticism he used to have. He can still move, especially, more so than other quarterbacks in this league. But I think that maybe we can get him this time. So I have us beating the Steelers, but that's a game that could go either way. The Steelers defense did not look good against the Jets. There's a lot of questions there, but maybe, by week 16, we really know who's what. There's always a team that falls off and doesn't make the playoffs that did the previous year. That might be the Steelers. Week 17 at Minnesota. I do have us winning. Again, this is another game I'm not confident about. I think by that point, you're going to really start to know if J.J. McCarthy is a really good NFL quarterback or if he might be fringe, just a solid starter in the NFL. I don't know. So we'll know, I think, by week 17 how good that Vikings team is and if they're going to be a problem for many years to come with J.J. at the helm. Week 18 at the Bears. I do think we win. The Bears are the only team in this division I just don't think is there yet. And I don't know. I think to me, their offensive line is still a question. Their defense is still a question to me. I like Montez Sweat. There's some other guys I like, but I think their linebacking core is not as good as it's been. And so there's questions for me. So I think the Bears still need a couple more pieces, but I think they're going to finish bottom of the division. So with that said, I think the Lions are going 13-4. That's what I thought before the preseason. I'll be honest, based on what I just told you guys, they could be a 9 or 10 win team. But that's just based on what I saw in week 1. I do believe they are going to step up and play better. They will be better than a 10-win team, in my personal opinion. It's just they didn't look like that in week 1. So, yeah, I think maybe 12 wins is where they end up. But I'm going to stand pat with my 13-4. I could have easily changed it and just went with based on what I thought based on week one. But again, I wanted to be sincere and genuine about what my thoughts were before week one. So that's where we're at. I think it's a 13-win team. And yeah. So there you have it. I would love to hear what you think in the comments below. Who do you think is going to be in the Super Bowl? Do you think the Lions are, going to be better than 13-4? Do you think they're going to be worse? Are they going to make the playoffs? I do have a bet with a friend that they are going to, well, the bet he made as a Packers fan was that the Lions were going to finish bottom of the division. I do not think that happens in any way, shape, or form. So it should be an easy 20. At least that's what I thought. But yeah, I still don't think there's any way that any team right now finishes below the Bears. The Bears are going to be the worst in the division. And they're still going to be an 8-win team in my opinion. So with that said, be sure to hit that like, give me a subscribe, and I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.